the scars we carry aren't signs of brokenness, but maps to our purpose. Today on In Her Words, I'm joined by Michelle, founder of EMANI Vegan Cosmetics, educator, and advocate for women's whole body wellness. Her journey began in a Vietnamese refugee camp and led her to build a global clean beauty brand that merges ancient fermentation wisdom with modern science, all to support sensitive, stressed, and hormonally dynamic skin. Michelle doesn't just make skincare. She runs pain into purpose. From battling cystic acne to navigating menopause, she's redefining beauty and healing resilience as well as innovation. And that is making her a non-negotiable force. If you've ever been told your skin, your story, or your stage of life isn't a mainstream enough, this conversation is for you, an invitation to bloom exactly as you are. I'm your host, Thando Mazibuko, and today we welcome Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here, and I'm so excited for our conversation because healing and regenerating is it's my job. It's my jam.
So, Michelle, your journey began with hardship, and how did that hardship come into you and now influence your journey with entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Vietnam, and as our country had a huge civil war, and in 1975, South Vietnam basically lost to the North, and a lot of us actually left in looking for a better life. By the way, Vietnam is a wonderful country to visit these days, and I go back very often. And so we escaped by boat. So we were boat refugees. And the journey was very harrowing because we ended up, in a little ship, a fishing vessel, like 90 feet, about 30 meters, with 319 people. And we made it to Thailand. And imagine my mother was traveled as a single mom with 6 children. My youngest sister was 2. My oldest brother was 16. So I can't even imagine myself and the strength that it takes to take 6 of your children on a boat, escaping a country, and not knowing where we're really going to end. We spent a year in refugee camp, and we applied for asylum. We ended up in Canada, and it was quite a culture shock. So we came from a very hot, humid country to a very cold country and to the Western world, which we knew nothing about. And we did not speak English. And that taught me to be really resilient. And that was just like the first part of my journey.
That is amazing. And, kudos to your mom for, her strength and her resilience. And I can only imagine that because of your mom's strength and resilience, you have learned your own strength and resilience through empowering through.
Yeah. And this is what I love, about the sisterhood. I believe, women are really strong, and no dissing to the men, but I feel like we are stronger than the men because most of us either, have full-time jobs running companies and being executives, but we're also mothers and caregivers and, unfortunately, sometimes housekeepers and the cleaner. And I feel a lot of us really step into that. And a lot of us are exhausted and we don't have time for self-care. And a lot of us are going through hardships and we're questioning about, our health and our mental. And then social media and what is portrait of what beauty today is. It's a little bit disturbing because they set a bar that is unrealistic.
Yeah, that's true. You speaking about beauty, and obviously you're in the beauty and skincare business. You've spoken about battling cystic acne and navigating menopause, moments that have, often stripped women of their sense of self-worth. How did those personal health struggles become a catalyst before creating EMANI? And how did you translate pain into purpose?
Well, I was in the fashion business and I grew up in the 80s. So in the 80s, there was very little information about what beauty products you can actually use. So in 56, in 1985, I started breaking out very, very badly. I had like cystic acne all over. And going through high school, and not just high school, but I felt like an ugly duckling all the time because my skin made me feel less worthy for some reason. And I remember having some friends over and she bought me like face cleanser for my face because she thought that maybe she's trying to help me in some ways. But in some way, I felt like, yeah, I actually cleaned my face a lot. Matter of fact, I was overwashing. That's why I was like breaking out. And from 15 to 28, I spent a lot of time dermatologist. So I went through the whole gambit of like Accutane and the topicals and all of these things. And I have a really sensitive stomach, and I didn't even know that. So Accutane really messed up my system. And and of course, through the years, my life has not been stress-free. So from, having a really sensitive system, getting into inflammation. Now, I have chronic inflammation, right? Mm-hmm. And so during this time, I didn't find products that couldn't break me out. Like everything I put on my skin, I broke out. And anyone who has acne listening to this, when you have acne and you go get a facial, it's not a spa relaxing facial. My facial consists of like a lot of prodding, and she was using a lancet. She was breaking the skin and she was squeezing it out. And then honestly, halfway, I have to tap out because I was tearing up and I was like crying and it was just super painful. And then she zapped me and then my skin looked great. And then I put on products and I break out again. So that was a cycle that I was going through. And through just like deep, deep, deep frustration to the point of like, God, like I feel so helpless. And I started calling companies and I'm like, what do you make products that break people out? And back in the 90s, like, you don't really call companies and question. It's hypoallergenic. Why is it breaking me out? I don't understand. This is, I end up talking, they send me to technical people. I end up talking to companies that make, I don't really call it chemicals, that make ingredients for cosmetics. And just through a lot of inquisitive questions. And that's why I believe in the power of asking, then figure out like how to ask for what you want. And just asking, and I learned a lot about ingredients. And I'm like, look, I just want to be selfish. I want to make one product just for me. I want a foundation that doesn't break me out because I was in fashion. And for me, I was hiding. I don't want to hide my skin. I just want a foundation that I can hide in my skin. And that's the start of EMANI, and we've been around since 1998. And for me, it's not about building a conglomerate, but building something that is just specifically made for women like myself, who has horribly sensitive skin.
And your skin looks so good, so I definitely have to use EMANI.
Oh my gosh. And so we're going to be launching in Nigeria.
Oh.
We're going to be launching in Nigeria this fall, and I'm really excited because I think Vivian, it's a company, it's called Perfect Trust, and I met them in Italy where we participated in this trade show. And, I started talking to her and she's like, you know what? Like Nigerian women are just having a lot of issue with PAH, which is like pigmentation, inflammation, and everything in hyperpigmentation in their skin. And then we have also sensitive skin. We have acne scars. And she's like, I really love what you're doing because this is what our people need. Matter of fact, through conversation with her, we're creating a serum for just like women of color. And I don't mean like women of, Black women, but we're talking about Asian women, Latin women. If you have melamine and if you have acne and you go outside and you're not and the sun is really harsh, you're going to get those like acne spots and acne scars. So I get really excited that I'm able to do problem solving and able to take formulations and what's natural and create a solution and really help everyone out there, not just women, but men as well.
I can't wait till you get to us in South Africa. We're gonna have to connect you with some skincare people so that
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now, currently we distribute in like 17 different countries. We're mostly in Europe and North America, a couple of Central Latin America. But Africa, it's new, and I never really thought that, Africa would work for us because we have a lot of makeup products, and we don't create makeup for women of color. But I think the concept of like the fermentation, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and just really healthy skin is a global mission.
You did touch on the ancient fermentation of Imani with modern science as well. I did say that. But for listeners who might not know why fermentation is so powerful for sensitive and hormonal skin, what could you just tell us about it?
Okay, so here's my thing is that okay, so everyone heard of Korean beauty, K beauty, right? So and about 10 to 12, 15 years ago, they were kind of like coming out with some skincare that's really effective, right? And at the time I was like, yeah, I really love the results, but what is it that is so interesting about it? So a couple of things I have issues with Korean beauty is that first, they use fragrance. So any of the Korean skincare you use, it smells really pretty, which is wonderful. However, some of the fragrances has like over 26 allergens. That's really terrible for people with sensitive skin. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of petrochemicals, minerals, and things like that, things that I wouldn't want in a skincare. And so I went to Korea and I said, hey, we're looking to develop a natural skincare. And by this time, we probably spent 3.5 years figuring out this natural skincare and how's it really going to work. Natural skincare works really great if you're looking for, moisture balance and conditioning because it makes your skin feel really great. However, after I turned 35, 45, and 50, I'm like, holy cow. I'm seeing lines, I'm seeing pigmentations, I'm seeing like aging, my skin was accelerating after you turn 40, 45. And your hormones start change. So I'm like, natural skincare, natural oils is going to give me moisture, but it's not going to give me the results I really want. And so we go to Korea and we speak to like 100 different companies. And the language barrier was real because when we were talking about, well, most of them don't speak English as well, and they really don't understand when we started 10 years ago in researching and things like that. They don't really understand what clean beauty was because it was such in its infancy stage. When we talk about, hey, I don't want parabens, let's take out parabens. What are some of the alternatives? Parabens are like a preservative in a lot of the skincare and a lot of the body products that you use, but parabens we found traces of parabens in cancer cysts back in like 2001. And so that's like 25 years ago. And it's kind of curious like how some products are still having parabens, right? And so we talked to a bunch of different companies and we're like, this is really frustrating because we can't get a clean product. We don't really understand how it works and things like that until we stumble onto this little company that's kind of obscure. And they're like, oh, Michelle, we own 13 different patents. And the patents is fermentation. And I'm like, I don't really know what that means. I said, tell me more. Tell me more about this fermentation. So the entire process is basically introducing ingredients and then using lactobacillus from kimchi. So if you ever had Korean food, like the fermentation to really break it down, and right now in the U.S., we speak a lot about the fermentation because it's really good for our gut health, right? And so they're talking about fermentation using lactobacillus kimchi and their patent process, and we break ingredients down like ginseng, which is an incredible ingredient for topical, but also for your internal intake. And we're able to take the compound, right? So thinking about like these molecules are 200 parts per million through the fermentation process, which is extreme heat and extreme freezing, and then we extract. And what that does is that the 200 parts become 2,000 parts per million. What does it mean? It's just that when you put it on your skin, it absorbs much faster. And it's going to produce results because it's just not sitting on top of your skin. Skins are made of many layers, right? The top layers is basically dead. That's why you hear how important exfoliation really is. The over exfoliation causes your skin to inflame. So there's a balance to everything that we do. So that's what we use. We use that ancient art of fermentation. Right? You can ferment rice, you can ferment like ginseng, you can do lactobacillus by itself. And with a few products, you can actually get good results. And that's our purpose, and make it clean.
Thank you for explaining that and the science behind it too. You did speak on, you having stomach issues and you believing in holistic body wellness for women. You are redefining clean beauty, which is very common now, but it wasn't when you started researching it. And in an industry where clean beauty and everyone seems to be greenwashing but not really doing it, how do you ensure that EMANI's commitment to sustainability and ethical sourcing are authentic and actionable and not just marketing? And you did kind of touch on it and how, but how do you feel about that?
I think ingredients transparency is so critical, and I love the internet and I love AI because all the information are like in the palm of our hands, right? So, when we work with our team, we come up with the 3 Ps in skincare. So whether you're looking at EMANI or whether you're looking at like Skin Talk, right? You're looking at a product on TikTok and the reviews are amazing and things like that. I want you to really dive a little bit deeper. Our first P is potency. Potency is what we consider like the active ingredients inside of a product. Let's just say vitamin C is really popular right now. And I don't know if consumer knows this, but you can put 0.01% and say, hey, it's a vitamin C serum. Mm-hmm. Right? So at that level, under 1% it's not going to change the way your skin looks and feel, right? For sensitive skin, what we find out is that between 9 and 10% is really great. Where it's going to give you what you need is a great healthy dose of vitamin C. But if you go anything over that, let's say, if you're planning, you put in 20% of vitamin C. High vitamin C can cause skin to react, right? So understanding the potency and what's behind it. If you're interested in buying a product and you're going to pay considerable amount of sum for the serum, you should be able to reach out to their customer service and say, hey, how much is vitamin C in this? How much hyaluronic acid is in this? What is the percentages of what's in your product? Because most skincare, it just depends. Imagine you're buying a moisturizer and over 80-90% is water. And you may get only 1% active. And then you get like skin conditioner and like a emulsifier, and you get oils and things like that. So what are you really getting for your money? So ingredients transparency is really critical. Right? Then the other thing is, we call it the second P is penetration. How are you going to deliver those nutrients into my skin, right? And so that's why I think the fermentation really helps. It's like small molecules delivery. So see like small molecules, and you can ask molecule size, and most customer service don't really know, right? So how is it going to get into my skin? Because the real magic happen at the second layer, maybe the third layer of your skin. And then has it been proven? Like, has it really been clinical studies, not even just from the finish, but also from the raw materials. So when we order raw materials from, all these companies to formulate, we have what we call the MSDS. We also have COA with certificate analysis. We also ask if they have any clinical studies, and then what percentages is going to bring us the results that we're looking for. All of those information are readily available. And any company that is not greenwashing, white labeling, will be able to tell you exactly how they formulate it.
That's so true. That's so true. And thank you for your transparency. And, you know, the most important thing is people need to read what they're buying and not just buy from because an influencer or someone says, because we have all have different types of skin and it's very different. You did speak that about now entering the African market soon and about to launch in Nigeria. You know, as a founder, you've led global sales growth and now into and international partnerships. You've navigated complex markets. What's one lesson you've learned about building trust across different cultures, especially for women, you know, from different continents and now about to be into another continent you're about to conquer?
I think in businesses and in life, and this is something I practice every day, is to be a better listener and to ask questions and to stay open and be absolutely curious and not have a judgment mind, right? And this is probably many years of being the opposite, right? And I love it because you said in her words. And I felt that my opinion, my strong personality, and my voice were my power. Like I think real power lay in listening and to understand. So before I would listen to respond, and now I listen to understand, and then lead with empathy and heart. And it absolutely changed my life. And it changed my perspective, and it changed how I approach our projects and how we listen to our clients and our customers and our people, and even my family. I'm practicing that every day.
Thank you for that, Michelle. That is such a great way to look at business where a lot of people don't think about it. I think everyone is always caught up in just strategy and how you can sell, but listening to people and your customers is the most important part of business. So I think that's the best advice I've heard about business. It's empathy, and that's what business is, you know, connecting humans and brands. So I think I love that advice. I'm gonna hold on to that myself.
I'm glad I'm able to add value, and that's a mission I really want to share. I think like social media make us a little bit more narcissistic, and one of those things where I feel, you know, I on self-love, it was really difficult for me to really embrace. And because consciously, I'm like, of course I love myself. It's stupid enough for me not to love myself, right? But however, when you really think about it, I said, do I really love myself unconditionally? You know, and you think about the voice that we have in our head. Oh, God, I look so fat. Or like, oh, I can't believe I did that. Oh, I can't believe I got, you know, I have to do this and I have to do that. And I completely changed my perspective. I completely changed my perspective. And funny story is my sisters and we would just, I went home to Canada for Mother's Day. And I went and I said, hey, I want to see all of our old family photos because I want to take some home and I want to categorize like our history, right? Our family and our journey and everything. Because to me, it was very personal. It's not something that I'm going to share on social media. But for me, it was really important to really look back. And I'm in a very reflective stage of myself. And then I saw all these old photos. I have like 4 sisters, right? And I have 5 brothers, so we have a huge family. And we were looking back at our photos like 20 years ago, and we're like, holy cow, we were so skinny.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my God, why did we think we were so fat when we were so skinny?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, and I was telling, I said, do we feel fat right now? And she's like, yeah. And I said, well, think about 30, 20 years from now, we're going to look back and it's like, we were skinny, and then we thought we were fat. So I'm like, maybe just embrace ourselves right now. So I think the voice in our head can be our best friend, right? Or it could be our worst enemy.
That's so true.
And if you find yourself having these negative thoughts about yourself, I think that sometimes this is where we bring our awareness into our thoughts. And I look at our mind as a garden. And if we don't tend to it, a lot of weeds are going to grow.
Wow. That's a great one. Yes. I was going to ask you, what's one piece of advice you'd give a young woman or just any woman, to stay grounded in their mission in life?
Yeah. I don't really like advice, but I will do an experience share, right? And it's because I speak from what I know and I speak for what works for me. And I used to wake up and I would have almost like anxiety because I think of all the things I have to do and what I didn't get done. And then I'm not going to have time to go to the gym. Oh, I feel fat. And then you try on clothes and nothing looks good today. It used to, and I used to start my morning like that. I'm like, how do I live like that for so long? And the first thing is start with your mind and start out small, right? And start noticing your thoughts. And one of the books that I really love, and I wish I discovered this book earlier, and it's called Don't Believe Everything You Think. And it's by Joseph Nguyen, and he's a Vietnamese author. And someone had recommended the book to me, but I never listened to it because I'm more like an audio person, and I listen to when I'm in the car. And it's true, you can't believe everything you think. And so it starts with noticing when you're criticizing yourself or when you're really hard on yourself. And you just kind of say, you know what? I'm not gonna think about that. I do like myself, and I am working on being better. And I do love myself because guess what? I'm healthy, right? I'm walking. I may not, I may have 32% body fat. By the way, that's actually my body fat. I may have 30% body fat, but I'm healthy.
Yeah. That is great. Yeah, just 32?
I have like 32% body fat. Like that's, and for me, and it's like noticing that. And I think dating yourself and loving yourself. And because we put everyone else's first, and I don't mean putting ourselves first in a narcissistic way. It's just about self-care. And it starts with by removing, noticing your thoughts and said, you know what? I'm not gonna have those thoughts anymore. And you just let it pass. You don't fight it. It's like, okay, I notice that voice of criticism, just let it pass. Because the more what you resist, persists. So don't fight it. Just like, okay, I notice you. Move out of my head.
Michelle, where can our audience find you or EMANI products?
Yeah. Well, EMANI.com, EMANI.com. We're also available in Amazon. Then we also have distributors in Italy and somewhere in Europe. So, and it's just on certain parts where we do international shipping. And then, just come in and just kind of take a look at the website and kind of read our stories and read our and see the science a little bit for yourself. And all I want to do is make women feel beautiful in their own skin. And even though we started out as a makeup company, but I notice that as the older I get, the less makeup I want to wear because I feel the power in myself.
Michelle, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sharing your wisdom on life and on business and on everything. It was my pleasure to meet such a light and joyful soul in you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. And you know what? The light in me see the light in you, and I connect with you. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.